The Valdorian High Command had prepared for everything. They had studied human physiology for cycles, analyzed their military tactics, and crafted restraints from their strongest alloys. The prisoner transport ship Nexus Bane carried enough firepower to level a small moon, and its holding cells were designed to contain the most dangerous criminals in 7 star systems. What they hadn't prepared for was Marcus Chen. Commander Zethkar watched through the reinforced viewport as the human sat motionless in his cell, hands bound behind his back with quantum-locked restraints. The alien's 4 eyes narrowed with satisfaction. This particular human had single-handedly destroyed 3 Valdorian outposts before his capture on Kepler 442b. The bounty on his head could fund a small army. Estimated arrival at the tribunal station, 6 standard hours, reported Navigation Officer Crix, her chitinous exoskeleton clicking nervously. Even she seemed uneasy about their cargo. Excellent. Signal the tribunal that we have the terrorist. Secure, Zethkar replied, his mandibles clicking with approval. They'll want to make an example of this one. What the commander didn't know was that Marcus had been awake for the past 3 hours, listening to every conversation through the ship's poorly shielded communication system. His enhanced hearing, a gift from the genetic modifications all Earth Defense Corps operatives received, picked up frequencies the Valdorians assumed were beyond human range. More importantly, he'd already freed himself from the restraints. The quantum locks were impressive technology, designed to tighten whenever they detected molecular-level tampering. But the Valdorians had made one crucial error. They'd designed them for Valdorian prisoners. Human joints bent differently, human bones compressed under pressure in ways their alien physiology couldn't replicate. Marcus had dislocated his thumbs within the first hour. Now he sat perfectly still, hands positioned exactly as they'd been when locked, waiting for the right moment. Through the walls, he could hear the ship's routine. Guard changes every 2 hours, meal delivery in 30 minutes, and most importantly, the location of the armory 3 decks up. The meal delivery came right on schedule. Guard Captain Thexmore, a hulking Valdorian with scarred carapace, approached the cell with a nutrient cylinder and expression of disdain. "Feeding time, human vermin," Thexmore growled, his translation, device rendering the words in heavily accented standard. Marcus looked up slowly, meeting the alien's gaze with steady brown eyes. "You know, Captain, I've been thinking about your restraint system." Thexmore's laugh was like grinding metal. "Thinking all you want, terrorist. Those locks haven't been broken in." Marcus stood up smoothly, his freed hands now visible. The quantum restraints dangled from his right wrist like a metallic bracelet. The alien's 4 eyes widened in impossible synchronization. "Ever," Marcus finished the sentence. "That's what you were going to say, wasn't it?" Thexmore lunged for the alarm, but Marcus was already moving. The human's enhanced reflexes, products of both genetic modification and years of combat experience, made him seem to blur across the cell. His shoulder caught the Valdorian center mass, driving them both into the corridor wall with enough force to crack the alien's exoskeleton. The guard's weapon clattered across the floor as Marcus relieved him of his access keys, comm device, and sidearm in one fluid motion. Thexmore slumped unconscious, purple blood trickling from his mandibles. "Sorry about that, Captain," Marcus murmured, checking the weapon's charge. "Nothing personal." The ship's layout was burned into his memory from the intelligence briefings before his capture, a capture that had been intentional, though his commanding officers would never admit it. Sometimes the best way into an enemy stronghold was through the front door. Marcus made his way through the corridors with practiced stealth, avoiding patrol routes he'd memorized from listening to the crew's chatter. The Valdorians were efficient, but they were also predictable. Their military doctrine prioritized overwhelming force over adaptability, a weakness human strategists had learned to exploit. The armory was lightly guarded, protected more by its location than by personnel. Marcus disabled the 2 sentries with non-lethal precision strikes, appropriated their weapons, and began selecting his gear. Plasma rifle, check. Gravity bombs, check. And most importantly, the ship's emergency beacon transmitter. He was programming coordinates into the beacon when alarms finally began blaring throughout the ship. Attention crew, the human prisoner has escaped. Commander Zethkar's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Seal all decks. Deploy hunter teams. He's one human. We have a crew of 47. Marcus smiled grimly as he activated the beacon and shouldered his appropriated gear. Through the ship's hull, he could already see the first flickers of hyperspace distortion. The Earth Defense Fleet had been tracking his position since his capture, waiting for his signal. The hunt lasted exactly 17 minutes, not because Marcus was captured, but because that's how long it took for the EDF dreadnought Indomitable to answer his beacon, drop out of hyperspace, and politely request the Valdorians' surrender. When Commander Zethkar finally found Marcus, the human was standing calmly in the ship's main docking bay, watching through the viewport as human Marines boarded the vessel. He'd gathered quite a collection during his brief tour of the ship: weapons, access codes, and most notably, every set of restraint keys the Valdorians possessed, which now hung around his neck like some barbaric trophy necklace. How? Zethkar demanded, his weapon trained on the human but his hands shaking with a combination of rage and disbelief. Marcus turned, the keys chiming softly against each other with the movement. You brought chains for a human prisoner, Commander. The problem is you forgot something important about humans. What's that? We've been breaking out of cages since we first figured out how to make tools, and we've gotten really, really good at it. Behind Zethkar, the airlock hissed open as the first human Marines stepped aboard, their weapons ready but their expressions relaxed. They'd done this dance before. Besides, Marcus added with a slight smile, did you really think one captured operative was worth risking a diplomatic incident? We prefer our intelligence gathering to be a bit more hands-on. As the Valdorian commander was led away in restraints, human restraints, Marcus noted with satisfaction, he couldn't help but think that perhaps they'd underestimated more than just their prisoners' escape capabilities. They'd underestimated what it meant to be human. The keys clinked softly around Marcus's neck as he walked toward the airlock, each one a small reminder that sometimes the best prison break started with walking in through the front door.